Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the Grey Zone with Ali Manzoor, a show where we challenge assumptions, stereotypes, viewpoints on various complex issues, and hopefully foster critical thinking. Today we have a guest with us, Iman Siddiqui. Iman is currently Director, Custom Solutions and Integrations of User Experience Office at Princeton University. Previously, she's been Senior Consultant at Accenture, working across tech, product, UX, and development projects. Iman, welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much, Ali. Great to be here.
Okay, Iman, so you worked a lot in the US, and mashallah, I was going over your LinkedIn profile, I was going over your work. Mashallah, you've been very, very successful. What is your definition of success, and what is success to you?
That's a very philosophical question, and thank you for conducting research and looking into all of this. It's interesting because I'm visiting Pakistan, obviously, for a family wedding, which is wonderful. But often I've met people that I hadn't seen in years and years, and they're doing wonderful things. They're at the pinnacle of their careers and in influential positions. And I look at their families, and I'm like, if I see happy children, to me, that's really success at the end of the day. I mean, yes, because our lives are so mingled professionally and personally, but happy children are a validation of, you have a successful life, and however you want to interpret that.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a term that I've been seeing online a lot, and maybe you can help our viewers explain to it. So there's a term called agile methodologies versus traditional waterfall projects. What are these terms?
That's a very good question, because Agile is now becoming more and more rampant in everyday projects, but it's originally a methodology that started off for software development. And what it really means is, so one of my areas of expertise is just breaking down complex ideas into really simple concepts for everybody to understand and use if they want to. So Agile, in a very simplified form, is taking a big idea and breaking it up into little chunks and trying those little pieces through the course of like a few weeks to see how it's progressing, and then following it up with the team that you're working with to see how it's been working, like what's been working well, what hasn't been working well. Is there room to change, or is there a need to change something? And that really is Agile. So making a list of what's needed to be done, prioritizing that list in an order of like, okay, here's my top priorities, and then starting to work on some of those things and seeing them come to life, and then doing a retrospective to say, is this what we really wanted? If that is great, otherwise you constantly have to look at your prioritized list, which is the backlog, and reshuffling it to see, did something else come up that's a top priority based on what's happening in the environment? Is there something that you thought you needed, but based on what you've delivered, you don't need anymore? So that's kind of it. And we can apply it to our lives, not just in software development, but really in every aspect of our lives, just taking an idea and breaking
what
it
is
up.
waterfall projects then?
So waterfall is like you spend ample time planning what you're going to build. Whether it's software or a bridge or anything, you spend a lot of time planning and documenting it, getting sign off and etc. So it could be like 2 to 4 months or more, depending on the size of the project. Then you lock down that scope and you start building it for the next so many months. And then at the end of like maybe a year, you say, okay, here's what we built, but what you imagined so many months ago and what's been delivered is very different because things changed in the middle. Environment is constantly shifting. But since you had locked down that scope, there was very little margin to embrace change. But in Agile, you're embracing change constantly, and that's the idea.
Okay, so I think if I look at the world today, we're preparing our children for jobs don't exist, right? Let's go back 10 years. None of us knew what a meta engineer would be, or an AI engineer, for example, right? And how do you think institutions like Princeton are preparing our children or our youth of today for jobs of tomorrow that even we don't know exist or what they will be?
True. So what's happening with that is, we can't really prepare anyone for what we don't know. So it's again trial and error and maybe a little bit of agile methodology. Let's prepare them for what we think is around the horizon. But as we're moving towards that horizon, things are constantly shifting in the tech landscape. And then say, we thought they were moving in this direction, but now we have to, steer a little bit in a different direction. So there's a lot of like here's what we think is happening. And actually, that's really what's happening with all the executive orders flying in the US also. We'll have an executive order like, okay, we have to change the funding and the grants of a certain area of education, and we start working on that process. And then a different executive order flies in that contradicts the first one. So this is a great example of agile methodology in a constantly shifting landscape. So currently what Princeton is doing, it's partnering with places like Google Analytics, it's partnering with all the top tier analytic agencies, and we have created a New Jersey AI Hub, which is a conglomerate of all these different agencies. And together they're brainstorming, they're planning the future, they're collaborating on what they think the next steps should be, which is basically based on what we know right now. But it's a very volatile and ever-changing landscape.
Okay, according to Education Data Initiative, the average education cost of a college education is about 39,000 US dollars, university being even higher. At a macro level, US student loan debt stands at a staggering $1.8 trillion. So, is a degree worth the debt? Or should people opt for things like coding, boot camps, or on job trainings, which take like just a few months and probably
Yeah.
can get you a higher return on investment? So, what's
Right.
your point of view on that?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you what, even though I work for academia and I represent academia, I'm of the mindset that when I'm hiring, I just really need to know that the person can do the job. And sure, their resume will tell a story. Sure, their interview skills and how they come across, their demeanor, etc., will tie their resume and complement the full picture. But for tech jobs, I've now said, and oh yeah, when we post a job description, often there's minimum education, like at least a bachelor's or an engineering degree or a master's, depending on the role. But lately, we're saying don't put any education requirements. Here's the job description, and that's it. We're
So,
not
someone
saying
like me with, let's say, no education at all could also
if
apply?
you could, but what we're doing instead is we're saying you're applying for this technical job. Here's a tech test.
Okay.
Take the test. If you ace the test, and then you come across, a good fit for the university in terms of like your personality and dynamics, and a good fit for the culture, then yes, you could get the job.
Okay, so I'm going to come to Pakistan because we're all from Pakistan, and exports, IT exports from
Yeah.
Pakistan has been a buzzword.
Yes.
So I did some digging, and according to Dawn, Pakistan's IT exports touched $3.8 billion in 2024-2025. People say this number could be higher. What should Pakistan be doing to better tap IT exports?
First and foremost, build credibility.
Okay.
Again, we can go back to that agile methodology. Like, don't overpromise.
Okay.
That's sort of like a basic thing in every industry. Pakistan does, in general, based on what I've heard and read, overpromise in terms of like time, deliverables, and all of that. And when one time something falls short, the credibility goes down. And we all know negative things get more publicity than positive things. So don't overpromise. Say if you're asking us for these 8 things, we can do these 2 things. Take these 2 things and tell us how they were. And we'll take that feedback and produce it and implement that feedback into the next 2 things that we're delivering. And slowly but surely build that credibility and the fact, and also just show them that you're really listening and keen on building a partnership. So 2 things, an honest partnership, an honest collaboration, and smaller chunks so you don't bite more than you can chew.
If a 19-year-old was to ask you about technology education, is it the path to future security or future uncertainty in today's day and age?
So, the other interesting thing is, like a few years ago, we would talk about technologists. But I feel everyone has to be a technologist right now. Like, I mean, if you're a doctor, you have to be a technologist. You have to be able to perform and conduct the analysis, the results on some kind of software. Doesn't matter what industry we talk about, you have to be a technologist at heart and even in skills. So now we can't really separate technology from any other profession. Any person in any industry has to be a technologist.
According to Business Insider, 62% of college seniors familiar with AI are concerned that it's going to affect career prospects. Goldman Sachs estimates that AI could replace up to 300 million jobs. Is this anxiety well founded?
So we're also focusing on AI. And in today's time, I mean, there are budget cuts everywhere. The academic industry has been hit hard with that. So, and it's a target of like, what are you really doing? How much funding do you need for all these different things? And people are retiring, some people are being laid off, and we are saying we need to be more efficient because we're not hiring. So let's use AI to replace the people that have left. We can only go so far with that.
Okay.
It's sort of like saying नकल के लिए भी अकल चाहिए.
बिल्कुल चाहिए.
So you really need that critical thinking. How are you going to apply what AI produces back at you? You need to have a solid foundation to see how you can leverage AI to do your job better or to leverage AI to make it more efficient. So it can replace like the mundane jobs, but which is great because then you have more brain power to do other things that you otherwise wouldn't have had. I mean, yes, it's a threat to jobs if you're not upskilling. AI is going to take away the grunt work, for lack of a better word. But then what are you doing to use your brain power to beat what AI is doing? Because AI is spitting back at you what you're putting in it. So
I'm going to cut you here and I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you, Atiya Zaidi is the CEO of BBDO, one of the advertising agencies, one of the big players in the market over here. And I put this question to her, that is the advertising landscape changing with
Right.
like softwares like Canva
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
ChatGPT and Midjourney, and there are all these softwares. And she said,
Yeah, but who's going to
hypothetically,
do the thinking for you? Everybody has a computer, but you don't end up becoming, Malcolm Gladwell or Shakespeare because you have a pen.
Okay.
These are tools. I have a pencil. I'm not Picasso. You
Okay.
get what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
not everyone.
you have ChatGPT, great, but you still have to put that input in it, right?
Okay, so the World Economic Forum, they had a future of job reports, and I looked at some of their stats. IT skills have an average half-life of about 5 years. Are traditional university skills worth the cost?
So in any industry now, things are changing. Like I was saying, every industry person has to be a technologist. Every person has to keep studying and learning more on their job. Like at one point in time, it was maybe just the doctors who had to take certifications every few years. But now you kind of have to keep upskilling constantly. It's true. If you don't upskill, you could be out of sight very fast.
So would you like to, let's say, spearhead a subscription-based model at Princeton where, see, if I have an MBA degree or a IT tech degree or whatever, it gives me a 5-year, let's say, like a software update that comes every now and then on my phone, where, you keep updating me, or there's a distance learning program, and there's so many tools out there, or, there's a set of videos that are sent to me so that my skills and my knowledge and my know-how is updated. Do you think that will be something that could be workable in the future?
I think that's a really great idea. I mean, maybe some universities are already working on it and I'm not aware of it, but I think that's a really cool idea.
Sure, I wish you good luck. Iman, I really want to thank you for taking out time, coming to my show. And next time you're in Karachi, I hope that we can have you here again.
I would love that.
And maybe we can have a follow-up discussion
Yes,
with you as well.
and I may know more about what I don't know right now.
So that was it for this week with the Grey Zone with Ali Manzoor. Do tune in next week. Till then, stay curious, stay critical, and keep asking questions, because between the black and the white lies the grey.